Here's a close-up of our IAT sensor diagram. We will be pinning in here at pin 1. And here's our pinout for the IAT sensor. As you can see, we'll be tapping into the pre-throttle air temperature signal. Here's our key off, engine off IAT temp through our scan tool. It is reading -40 because it is receiving no power from the PCM currently. Here's our key on, engine on IAT, coolant temp, and ambient temp. Here you can see we are back probed for our intake air temperature sensor running into the interior of the vehicle. Key on, engine off. Key on, engine on, dropping 2.23 volts at 72 degrees. Dropping 2.04 volts at 79 degrees. Dropping 1.88 volts at 90 degrees. Dropping 1.73 volts at 100 degrees. Dropping 1.5 volts at 113 degrees. Here we can see the intake box is sitting at 115 degrees. And here at 118 degrees and 1.47 volts dropping over the sensor, you can see that our fans have now kicked on to cool the engine. Moving on to our accelerator pedal position sensor, here is our pinout for that test. Alright, now we will be performing our pedal sweep test. Under the dash, I have back probed into the signal wire for the pedal, and I have my multimeter hooked up as well. As I press on the accelerator pedal, you can watch the voltage increase. Starting it completely off the throttle, we're sitting at 1 volt. At wide open throttle, we sit at about 4.5 volts. And as I sweep through the range, you can see it steadily climb voltage. Getting closer to 4.5 volts the higher the RPM gets. And at wide open throttle, we sit at 4.25 volts. Here you'll be watching me bench test an engine coolant temperature sensor with a heat gun. You'll notice as it gets hotter, the resistance gets lower and lower. Jumping over to our Toyota RAV4 here, you can see I've back probed our engine coolant temperature sensor, and now we will be measuring the resistance change with heat on our multimeter. Here is our graph provided by Toyota comparing resistance in kiloohms to degrees in Fahrenheit for the coolant temperature. On this time lapse here, we had just started the vehicle and we are watching the voltage drop of the sensor as the car warms up. Looking at our temp gum coming out of the thermostat, we are sitting at 114 degrees Fahrenheit at 861 ohms of resistance. Here is another time lapse watching our resistance drop over time as the car gets hotter and hotter. Now that the engine is almost fully warmed up, we can see that we are sitting at 275 ohms, and that will continue to go down as the engine gets closer to 200 degrees. We're now back probing, doing a voltage drop test of the engine coolant temperature sensor. I have the scan tool up here showing us that we are sitting at 186 degrees Fahrenheit for our coolant temp, and our data reflects that on the multimeter, showing half a volt dropping over the sensor.